Hey guys, it's Kat and I'm back today with an eyeshadow first impressions over X amount of days. So this is a review video where I take a palette that I've never used before. This is the Riviera palette from Anastasia, Beverly Hills. I've not even opened it out of the box, but I'm going to use it for the first time today. I'm going to show you how it applies, my first impressions, and then I'm going to check back over the next probably 4 or 5 days with the looks that I create using this. And then by the end of the 4 or 5 days, I'll let you know what I think about the palette. But you get to see the looks I create and sort of my check-ins on how I feel about each shade as I've used it and how I feel about the color combinations and the looks I've created. So that's what we're doing today. All right, if you watch most of my videos, you're going to say, Kat, why are you looking so green and horrible? It's so overcast at the moment. When we're getting into winter, it's horrible. It's the worst. I have to put out artificial lighting, which I don't like. But the only good thing about the cold weather is the cats sleep on the couch, whereas normally they don't. They like to sleep near the window when it's warm. So look, it's a blessing and a curse, the cold weather. Okay, anyway, Anastasia Riviera palette. This was their last palette they released. They are, as of filming this, they've just announced another palette with Alyssa Edwards, which I'm really excited for. This is upside down. Go me. So that one is going to be out around the time this video is up. So they do have a brand new palette. So I am behind. But this one is sort of like a summer nautical theme. I think it did come out in their summer range. This is a bit different to their other palettes. Their other palettes have like felt fluffy packaging or glitter packaging. This is not like that. It's almost like lacquered cotton or a lacquered fabric. So it's got the fabric sort of design. It feels quite rough and it's not like a fluffy material. I quite like this compared to the fluffy material. So, oh, it's the first time I'm opening it. This is exciting. So here's the shades here. It does have a slip, it does have its mirror, it's the same format as other Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes, but it is significantly more colorful than other Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes, which is nice to see. So it's a mix between some sort of brown, some neutrals, you've got a bit of a mustardy color going on, you've got an aqua, you've got some pinks, you've got a more peachy pink, you've got quite a vibrant dark purple, a brown, some blues and a shimmery yellow. So the top row, no, from the brown onwards, that's all shimmer. That looks like it's a matte. There's some satin shades down here. Those sort of look like satins, but they sort of look like they're going to perform like a matte. So mainly matte in this palette, but it's very colorful compared to other Anastasia palettes, but they are turning quite colorful. So if you look at the Alyssa Edwards palette compared to this one, there are some similar colors, like there are some, you know, pinks and purples and whatnot, but that is a lot more colorful than this. So if this is not colorful enough for you, they've got one coming out. Now, what I personally like about this palette, besides the fact that I quite like Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadow formulas, they apply easily for me. They work well on my eyes and my body chemistry. But I think some of the colors in here, I swatched them in store the other day, and some of them are quite unique. Mainly the shimmers. This is like a bronze with a cool sort of shift to it. Then you have more a blue with a sort of gold shift to it or a yellow shift. So even though these are sort of quite typical colors, I think there's a little bit of a unique spin on some of them. Not all of them, some of them. And I also quite like the mix between your neutrals and your safe colors and your pops of color. So I'm going to start by swatching these on my bare arm, and then the shades that intrigue me the most, I'm going to throw them on my eyes, show you how they apply, and let's get into it. All right, here's a close-up of the palette. You can see the gold writing. You can see the sort of fabric, sort of rough fabric packaging. You've got some details there on the back. I quite like this metallic blue. Looks kind of cool. You've got the mirror, and then you've got the shades. So there are the shades there. Hopefully you can see down the bottom there are some shades that have a little bit of shimmer to them, mainly Estate and Monte Carlo, which is that peachy shade here, but I do think they will apply quite matte. All right, first 3 shades. We've got a matte white, which is called Sails. That's actually quite a nice matte white. I'm sure you can build it up. We have Yacht, which is that cool tone bronze. I love this color so much. It's a little bit, I don't know, a little bit purpley, It's beautiful. It's really gorgeous. It's a nice variation on a bronze. And then we have Seychelles, which is a bit more of a sort of moist, chunkier version. This is a lot smoother to apply, but this is a nice color. All right, next 3 shades. We've got Palermo, which is a beautiful metallic pink that's quite soft. As in texture, it's quite soft. We've got Seaside, which is that sort of silvery blue, but it almost, once again, this is quite soft. There's a lot of product on my finger, but I'm just having to go over it a few times to make sure it doesn't fall off my arm. It actually sticks to my arm. It's a nice sort of warm tone blue, so it's got a bit of periwinkle sort of color to it, but it's got a soft silvery gold reflex. So that sort of makes it look a little bit warmer and a little bit more sort of taupe. We've got Inheritance. Oh God, they're trying to make this sound tacky, aren't they? It's a very yellow gold. It looks almost like a topper. It's not very opaque. And the last shade on the top row is Mediterranean. This is quite a chunky one. This is more of a sparkle formula. So once again, you got to be a bit careful with it because it sort of wants to flake away. You need to sort of rub it in. It has sort of similar vibes to this one. This is more of a shimmer nude blue, if that's possible. And that is more of a periwinkle blue with like micro sparkle in it. So that's the top row. It actually doesn't look as bright as it sort of looks in the pan. These look a little bit pastel, a little bit wishy-washy, which I don't know, it's not a bad thing, but if you wanted really bright colors, these aren't it. All right, onto the second row, we have Estate, which looks like a soft peach nude. It's barely hard to see on my skin tone, but it's quite nice. It's just blends in with my what looks like blue skin in this light. Then we have Cabana, which is more of your mustard color, which I quite like. I'm just going to build up that one a tiny bit more because I didn't pick up too much on my finger. This one, you can see when it applies, it looks quite bright, but when you build it up, it almost starts going a little bit darker. Now, some mattes do that, and I've had some Anastasia Beverly Hills mattes do that. They're a bit weird. Depending on how you put them on, they can actually change the color. Then we have Coastline, which is more of a mid-toned peach. So you have a much lighter, brighter peach and a more mid-toned peach. Now we've got some vibrancy going on. We've got Bahamas, which is, oh Lord, that is a beautiful pink. Okay, not my personal favorite sort of color, but that applies really well, and that is a bold pink. We've got Monte Carlo, which is more of a dusty pink. It's got a little bit of shimmer in it, but once again, it doesn't actually give a shimmery effect on the skin. It maybe just is to help the formula apply a bit more softly. And then we have, what is this one? Cans. Oh my God, these two are really cool. They are probably the standout interesting shades in the palette. Last shade is Palm, so it is a chocolate brown, and that also applies really boldly and beautifully. So this is a lot more inspiring and interesting than the first row. These mattes are where sort of you get some punchier colors. It's a bit fun. All right, the lighting's turned very blue very quickly, so hopefully I can color correct this a bit. It's not looking the best, I'm sorry. But on my eyes, I've just got the NARS eyeshadow base in medium. On my lips, I've got the By Terry lip gloss in Peachy Gilt. So that's what I'm wearing. I'm going to zoom in now and let's put some eyeshadows on. And I look like I'm sick. I'm not. I just had some red eyeliner on my waterline yesterday and clearly it didn't all remove in the 2 times I've washed my face since. All right, I'm going to start with the shade Estate, just sort of to set my crease a little bit. This is a little bit powdery as per usual. That's what Anastasia Beverly Hills shadows are usually like. So if you're familiar with Anastasia Beverly Hills sort of like shadows, you'll know that there is a bit of kick up when you go to pick up some product. So just pick up the smallest amount. You don't want to agitate the pan too much. All right, I've got the shade Seaside. I'm going to put that all over the lid. I sort of wanted to put a little bit of color on today, but nothing like neon pink. That could be for another day. I'm going out. It's my mum's birthday, so I'm happy to wear some color, but I don't really want to look like you know, wearing Barbie pink all over my eyes. This is applying really nicely. It's a nice soft, there's a tiny bit of fallout, which I'll sweep off in a second, but you can see that that was really easy to apply. It's also a really nice color because it's a soft sort of light denim blue, but because it does have that almost, I don't know, pewter gold like shift to it, it does warm it up a little bit, and it takes it from being really, really stark blue to being a little bit more of a nude blue, if that's possible. All right, fallout, be gone. All right, I'm going in with Coastline, which is that slightly darker peach color, just to sort of put as a transition color. I do want to warm this up slightly. I could have used that mustard shade. I think the mustard would have looked nice, but I didn't. And this applies really softly, easy to blend, quite pigmented, but once again, I'm starting really, really soft because if you pick up too much product, it just like goes everywhere. There's a lot of kick up in the pan, and it sort of has a lot of fallout. So I'm a little bit, you know, conservative with how much I'm applying just for now. All right, on my lower lash line, I've got Palermo, which is that shimmery pink. Once again, this is quite a powdery metallic. It applies nicely, but the fallout it's definitely there. So it's really easy to blend, but you just have to be careful of picking up too much. Fallout, be gone. At least it brushes away really easily, which is a good thing. All right, I'm feeling like I'm not wearing as much color as I want. I'm going to take some of that original shade and just sort of pat it on just to intensify it a lot. I think with the blending in the crease, I lost a little bit of the boldness of this look. I feel like for colors, like I've used all colors so far, and this is looking quite muted, which, you know, I'm not mad about, but I sort of expected a little bit more brightness to it. Fuck it. We're using Bahamas. I'm going bananas for Bahamas. I'm applying to that neon pink, just really a small amount, tiny amount on the lower lash line. It's very vibrant. This is a good pink. If you want a vibrant pink, this is a vibrant pink for you. I quite like this. Fuck it. We're going a touch of purple. This is Cans. I'm just going to take this sort of in the outer corner, and I'm going to put it up a little bit onto the top. What is that? Lid. That's what it's called. Top lid. I really wished this had like a matte dark blue. I think if this had a matte dark blue, it would just go really nicely with the shimmery blues in this palette, but I sort of have to go brown or purple. I just think it would also match the packaging. A nice dark blue, like a really royal, beautiful blue would be epic. Okay, I am taking this I'm just applying it very softly for now and just sort of working it in because I do know how powdery these are. And if I apply too much, it's just going to be a mess. So, you know, the pigmentation of these are really good, but I just choose to be a little bit more cautious with it. So this is not a reflection of you that you need to build it up. Not at all. This is super pigmented. It's just a reflection of, I don't want to ruin my base because I know how powdery this is. You can see the fallout here. I can see in the pan, it's very powdery. Fallout, be gone. Oh, I love it when they just flick away. It's so good. All right, so we can determine that the mattes are pretty bold. I think that's where that's where you get the color in this palette. The shimmer seems to be quite like pastel, but this is probably too much color than what I wanted for my mum's birthday dinner. So I'm going in with a little bit of the brown. This is Yacht, and all right, my camera cut off, but I'm just using a little bit of brown, which is the shade Yacht, and I'm just using it to sort of transition the blue to the purple because I feel like I now have too much color. So I'm just sort of toning it down just a touch. I do really love how this bronze color and the blue work together. So it almost looks like it's the same color, but like a duochrome, like, because they complement each other really nicely. So it goes blue to the bronze and sort of bronze to the blue. They work well together. All right, I've noticed there's no highlight shades in this palette. So there's a matte white. I don't want to use a matte white. So I'm going in with that yellow gold, which, you know, I was trying to tone down the colors, but oh well. I'm just putting that a little bit just in the inner corner, just to add a little bit of brightness which breaks up that pink a little bit. I think that's really pretty. All right, I think we've toned that down sufficiently. So I'm gonna put some liner on, I'm gonna do my mascara, and I'll come back and let you know what I think about this palette so far. All right, so this is the look with some winged liner. I put some mascara on, and then I put purple liner on my waterline, but it was too dark, so then I put some shimmery nude. It was too nude, and I put a little bit of blue, so it's a mess. And then because my liner looked way too dark compared to my lid color, I just put some half lashes to sort of break that up a little bit, because it was looking very like silver and then like black, and it looked a little bit harsh for me. I think in person this looks a lot nicer than it does on camera actually. It looks quite bold on camera, whereas in person the nuances of the purple and the sort of bronzy gold color and the blue looks a little bit more soft, and it looks quite nice. The liner doesn't look as extreme as well. I do like this look, but I do have thoughts about this palette, so I'm going to zoom out and let you know. All right, so my first impressions of this palette is, it's not too bad. I think like I'm very familiar with Anastasia Beverly Hills formula, so when I see that the pan is really messy, it doesn't surprise me. You just have to, you know, go in very softly and build up an eyeshadow rather than apply a lot, because you're going to get fallout, it's going to get kicked back, it's going to get messy. Luckily with the fallout, as you saw, you can just brush it away, so it doesn't actually cling to the skin. It just sits on top of the skin and you can brush it away quite easily. So the fallout doesn't bother me too much, because it's never jeopardized my base. I never felt like I had pink stripes on my face from flicking away fallout. It's totally fine. I think my issue that I have with this palette personally so far on just first impressions is that the shimmers are a little bit lackluster than I expect. If I'm going to put I don't know, a blue on my eyelid, I sort of want it to look more blue than just silver. So I found that this color, even though it is a more wearable blue, which is good, I feel like I wanted to ramp it up a little bit. And there's no other matte blue or anything that you can really ramp it up with. You can only choose this glitter or the aqua. So I just felt like even the pink was a little bit wishy-washy when I first put it on. The colors aren't very bold. They almost look like muted versions of colors, which, you know, it just is going to come down to personal preference if you like that. These mattes were killer. They worked really, really well. Even the peaches worked really well. So I think the mattes are definitely where you're going to get the pops of color and the pigmentation. I just also find that I look at this palette, and as you saw when I was sort of thinking through this look, I didn't know how to structure a look. Normally when I look at a palette, I'm like, oh, I really want to try those two colors together. Oh, that looks like it pairs really well. This one seems a little bit jumbled, and that reminds me of the Norvina palette a little bit, where I feel like it's sort of hard to pair colors. So for example, if I wanted this teal, like what are you going to put in the crease? You're going to put bold, bright colors, you're going to put peachy colors, or you're going to put like a yellow. I sort of feel like there should have been some more cool toned, maybe like a matte teal or something like that that will complement some of these blues a bit better. I just felt like it was a little bit limited. Like I started with the blue and then I was like, oh, I don't know what to do from here, because I either need to put peach, pink, like a mustard, purple or dark brown in the crease. So I feel like it's a little bit disjointed, and unless you're really, really confident with using bold colors and mixing them together, you're going to get a little bit stumped with this palette. And that's how I feel. I don't even know what to wear with it tomorrow. I'm like, I don't know where to go with this, because you know, if I go any color, like I don't know what to do. Do I go teal and pink? Do I do like, it's a little bit, it doesn't seem organically like it makes a lot of sense. All right, we're back for day number 2, and since I'm just doing some work around the house, I thought I'll just go for a more nude matte look. So often when I'm doing a review on a palette that has quite a lot of mattes, I try to construct an all matte look just to kind of see how the mattes apply on their own. So today I use the white on the inner corner, I use the light peach, I use the sort of darker peach and the dusty pink. So I sort of just did that. I'll show it to you soon close up, but I'll just point out the colors I used. So this is the white matte. It actually did apply pretty boldly for a white matte. I did build it up a little bit, and I found the more I sort of built it up, the more it sort of was blending away. So it's not super opaque. I think if you wanted the matte to be super opaque, you would need to apply it wet or something, but it did, you can definitely see it. Definitely brightens areas. I don't really like it. I think on me, this makes me look like my eyes are really far apart, or that I've got like puffy eyes. So I don't really like this effect. I don't like that this is the only shade in the palette that really works effectively as a brightening highlighter. It just, I don't like that. I then used this shade. I originally put it all over the lid, and it is not a great shade. It's not bad in its formula or anything like that. It's just that it is like the same color as my skin tone, so I couldn't see it. It was almost yeah, it's a setting sort of shade for me. I would use this like I did yesterday to set my crease a little bit, but it's not actually a color that does anything to my eye. It just looks like I'm not wearing anything on my eye. This one has a little bit more color, so you can see the main peach part on my lid is this shade here. It's quite a nice color. I sort of was expecting it to be a little bit more pigmented and show up a little bit sort of brighter on the eye, but it's more of a nude peach. Then I used this color because I was originally just going to do peaches, but I thought it's too boring and it looks like I'm not actually wearing eyeshadow, so I popped a little bit of that dusty pink just in the outer corner and into the crease. Now, I do think there's a lot of redundancy here. As I was using this, I'm like, what's the point of some of these shades? So for example, this shade here, you could easily get the same effect by mixing the white with the peach. So if you just like dipped your brush in the white and then the peach and you applied it to your eye, you're going to get something similar to this. So I feel like that didn't need to be there. Also, I found that this one applied on the eye like a very soft version of this pink. So if you pick this pink up, tapped off any excess, applied a small amount and blended it out, it will look almost similar to that. Or if you don't want to take the risk, you'd always tap a lot in the peach, tap a tiny bit in the pink, and you'll get a similar color to this. So I sort of feel like if you were doing some color mixing, you wouldn't need all these shades. There's at least 2 shades so far that I've tried, this one and this one, that could have been replaced with something that made this palette a little bit more versatile. So a shimmery highlighter, for example, or maybe a cooler toned crease color that would work better with the blues. There was space for it, in my opinion. So far I'm not inspired by this palette, but I'll zoom in for you. All right, so we can see the mattes on the eyes. They did blend pretty well, but they did take a little bit of building up because they weren't as pigmented as what I'm used to from Anastasia Beverly Hills. So you can see the white in the inner corner. There was some, you can see probably that section. Can you see that section that looks like just my skin? That's that light peach shade. It pretty much didn't look like anything. Then we've got that sort of peach shade on the lid, and then right in the outer corner and blended into the crease is that dusty pink, which I still think gives me the vibe of that bright pink if you just use the smallest amount of that bright pink. So yeah, it's a kind of a fun color combination. I get that it's quite summery and fun. That it just, yeah, I just feel like for the price of this palette, I sort of wanted it to be a little bit punchier, a little bit, I don't know, I'm not loving it. All right, look number 3, and after my last look, which is the matte, sort of peachy, boring sort of look, I decided, no, I really want to give this another go, give this palette another crack, and I wanted to use some bold colors, as you can probably tell. So where did I put the brush? I dropped it somewhere. Oh, there it is, under the table. Good to know. So today I decided to go in with this shade here. It applied beautifully. It looks quite, I'm going to say aqua in the pan, but it applies more like a soft metallic blue, but it does apply really boldly. There's no building up needed. It was a beautiful, beautiful color. Now, if I was to use this color in my daily life, I would have preferred, like I'm sort of really wanting a matte mint or Tiffany blue or something like that, just to sort of diffuse it out and make it look like a nice sort of soft aqua wash on my eye. That's how I would want to use this color. But as you can see, I'm facing peaches, mustard, pinks, more peaches, and brown and purple. So I couldn't actually create that look that I wanted. And that's where I think this palette is really, I'm really struggling with it. Some of the cool colors that I really want to reach for, I just don't feel like there's enough colors in there that help create a flattering look that I actually want to wear using these colors. So for me, that one, beautiful color on its own, applies beautifully. So in the future, if I would reach for this kind of color, I would probably prefer to wear it with something from this palette that I've got, because there's some beautiful colors in there that just really sort of blend out and complement that look. But then I look at it and I go, I can just use this instead of reaching for this. So yeah, the color itself was nice. It's just not how I'd want to wear it. So I ended up blending it out a little bit with the mustard shade because I didn't want to use a peach, and the mustard doesn't really show up very well. I went to put the mustard on the lower lash line. I thought, okay, I'll go sort of blue up the top, a mustardy sort of gold down the bottom, but it looked dirty. This mustard applies on my skin anyway, quite brown, and it just didn't look very nice. So then I put some purple. I thought I need to just go big and just use the purple. So I used the purple on the outer corner, which I'll show you in a second. I put the gold here over the mustard. I went to put some brown because I was like, I should use this brown in the outer corner. It just made the blue look really muddy and really boring. So I applied some purple over the top of that as well. So it's a mishmash of colors. Like the look isn't bad. I just feel like I'm a villain from a Disney film. That's how I feel right now. I feel like the colors individually aren't bad. I just don't think they work together super well. So when I originally put that color on, I was like, okay, I've got some hope in this palette again. It applies beautifully. It's a nice bold color. You don't need to build it up. There's no fallout. It's just gorgeous. But I think, yeah, when I'm mixing it with other colors, I'm like, I'm still struggling with this palette. So this is a look zoomed in. You can't really see the mustard in the crease, but you can definitely see the teal color. I blended it out. It just made it look a little bit smoky and brown when I put the brown on. So I then dotted the purple over the top. I also put a purple liner to sort of keep that intensity and not mute it down any further. I've got the gold there and I've got the purple. The purple is a beautiful color. I really want to use this again with maybe a brown. I think it's a gorgeous, gorgeous color. I just feel like the color combinations aren't as flattering as I would like them to be. All right, day number 4, and I decided to go a really boring brown look because I think I'm color fatigued after yesterday a little bit. I did look at the footage yesterday and man, the eye look itself wasn't too bad, but pairing it with a red lip was just not a good idea. I knew it at the time, but afterwards I wanted to film a video where I was talking about this particular lip product, and I thought, oh, if I film that, I want to be wearing the lip product, but I think it just ruined the whole look. So I think tomorrow what I might do is do one last really colorful look with a more pared down look lip, because I think what really made that look yesterday look really sort of Mimi from the Drew Carey show was the pairing of color and color. So yeah, I'll give it another go tomorrow. But today I wanted to see how nude this palette can go. And ironically, I think this is my favorite look I've created using this palette. So I used 3 shades. I will show them to you. So I used Yacht all over the lid. It applied really nicely. It's actually a really, really beautiful shade because it's got a cool tone to it. I really like cooler tone golds and bronzes and browns. I think for my coloring, they end up looking the most flattering and make my eyes look really warm. So I really like that this is almost like a bluey tinge sort of bronze. It's a little bit different and it's not like a dark bronze. It's a lighter bronze. It's a really beautiful color. It applied really, really well. Then what I did, I blended it out with a mustard. I thought those are probably the most basic shades of the palette, and that's what I want to create, a basic look. And then I put a little bit of the brown in the outer corner and on the lower lash line. So I've gone bam, bam, and bam. So very, very simple. So I love the shimmer on the lid. The dark brown in the outer corner worked really well. The one thing I do want to mention though is that mustard shade sort of looks quite green on me. So I don't think this mustard shade is that effective. It does blend nicely. I don't think it's super pigmented though, because I have tried to use this on the lower lash line yesterday. It just ended up looking a bit wishy-washy and muddy. It didn't actually look like a, sort of mustard color, and then diffused, it just sort of looks like, I don't know, it looks like a healing bruise. So It's not my favorite color. I do really like this eye look. I think the bronze and the dark brown are beautiful. But I sort of feel like if I wanted to create a look like this, I would just reach for my sultry palette. But it is nice that you can go really basic with this. And if you did have this palette and you were more comfortable with looks like this, you could start with this and build it up. Put a little bit of the sort of shimmery yellow in the inner corner. Put a little bit of the purple on the outer corner. So what I was actually planning on doing today is going the bronze, and then instead of the brown on the outer corner, put the purple, because I really like that purple. But then I thought, no, I'm going to try to go as basic as possible. But if you did have this palette and you weren't sure how to like incorporate colors, you can start with this and just sort of build on it. Add a little pop of you know, pink if you wanted to. All right, I think this is look number 5, and this is going to be my last look using the Riviera palette. So I said I wanted to do one last colorful look, pair it with a nude lip, and it does look a lot better with a nude lip compared to the red lip that I had the other day. But today I wanted to play a little bit more with the pinks and also use that last blue. So today on the eye, I set my base a little bit with this peachy shade just in the crease. I packed that on most of the lid, like half of the lid, went in with the bright pink for the other half, ran this shade along my lower lash line, and then blended it out a little bit and put a little bit of the matte white as my brow bone highlighter. So that's what I've done. I've used all shades. We'll zoom in and then I'll give you my conclusion of this palette. All right, this look isn't too bad. I liked the shimmery pink blending into the bright pink. I think they worked really well together. They sort of give a similar effect on the eye. It's just that I think the shimmer isn't as bold. So if I was to take that sort of neon pink matte all over the lid, it would look a lot more extreme, whereas that shimmery pink just sort of softens it a little bit. That blue that I ran on the lower lash line, I did put a purple liner in my waterline, and I feel like with the purple liner and also the pink, it almost has more of a purpley tone to it compared to what it looks like in the pan. So I'm glad I finished this look on a colorful look, because this is quite a colorful palette. The quality is fine overall. It's typical Anastasia Beverly Hills. So if you're familiar with that, you will be familiar with this. There's a bit of kick up when you put your brush in the pan. They're very soft, they're very powdery, and sometimes the shimmers can be a little bit flaky, but on the eye they look really pigmented and bold. They blend out really nicely, and the key thing with them is just to pick up enough on the brush to deposit on the eye without overloading the eye, because that's when it can sort of rain down. So as long as you sort of play around and know how to work this formula, you will like this formula if you like past palettes. And I really do like past Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes. Even like I said, they're not a perfect formula. I find them really easy to work with once you've sort of figured them out. My issue with this palette is the color story. It just isn't something that I like wearing. And even though there are some shades in here that I really, really do like, I particularly love the bright pink and the bright purple. I think they're really killer shades. And even if you had a really cool toned or neutral palette, so if I could imagine graziers and taupes and mauves and bronzes and whatnot, if you had a palette all of that and you had this pop of purple, you could use that with all cool tone looks. You could even use that with golds, because it is a really, really beautiful purple. They both are really striking and add another element to the look that makes it really interesting. It makes the look pop. It's actually surprisingly flattering. And for really bright mattes, they are very pigmented and apply just like you're applying the dark brown. So I really, really like these. They're by far my favorite shades. So even though those are my standout favorites because they're very unique and I think they add a lot to this palette, there are some other nice shades in here. I particularly like this bronze shade. It's a basic bronze. It's a cool toned bronze, which is different to what a lot of other brands put as a bronze, but it applied really nicely. That color applied really nicely as well. If you just put that all over the lid and blended it out with like, I don't know, like a soft, like matte mint color, I think that would be the most gorgeous, just diffused color. I think it would be really, really pretty. And then with these sort of colors, I don't think they were bad colors at all. The colors just didn't amaze me, especially the blues. They softened down to almost like wishy-washy pastel blues. So I could actually get behind some of these colors. I think if they were put in the palette along with colors that really make them shine. You know, like I said before, I would have loved to reach for this and diffused it with a mint color or a sort of matte aqua color to really give a really soft, beautiful, colorful effect. But with this, it was jumbled. There's 1, 2, 3 cool tone shimmers on the top, and then there's no cool tone mattes. The only one is the purple. And even though you could use this purple with these sort of colors, it doesn't help complete a look. It adds a different element to a look. And I just found that I was a bit stumped. So yeah, with these sort of blues, I would like some cool tone transitions, maybe almost like a blue gray matte, maybe a dark teal. So I really would have liked some sort of brighter transition color or crease color, or just matte to blend out the shimmers that help complete the look without dulling it down. I would have loved to have seen maybe a lemon yellow matte as well. That would have been really fun with these sort of colors. It would have been fun with the yellow. And whenever I added in these sort of peachy colors, the mustard or the brown to complete a look, it would actually make it look really muddy and diffused. And it actually took away from the brightness and the beautifulness that is the color in the pan. So I just didn't think this was very well laid out. I just don't like that. And Anastasia's done this before, and other brands have done this as well, where you have like cool tone, but then you have to blend it out with warm tone. You know, that look is all right, but it's so limiting. So whether I put that on the lid, that'll over the lid, or that'll over the lid, if I reach for a peach or a pink, it gives the same effect on the eye. It looks very, very similar, and I just found that really limiting and really frustrating. So even though the looks that I created ended up looking okay, they're not color stories that I really want to reach for, and they didn't inspire me to want to play with this anymore. And it's a real shame because some of the colors in here are really pretty. I just feel like I'd have to reach for a couple of other palettes to make this elevate to the level that I expected it to be. And I'm definitely not saying take out all the neutral shades. I'm just saying that there were redundant shades. I talked about this before. This sort of pink can be achieved by mixing those two. You could get rid of this. This mustard didn't add anything. It actually didn't look very nice with a lot of these colors. So get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of that. The brown wasn't necessary. So if you put a navy or a cobalt blue matte here, you put potentially like a lemon yellow matte here, that would go really well with the pinks, with the yellow, with the aqua. That would be superb. Take out this mustardy color that I didn't like. Even though I love mustards, I just didn't think it worked with the colors in this palette. Put in a Tiffany blue matte or an aqua matte or a mint matte, and then, you know, make these nicer highlighters. I reckon this palette could have been really, really fun. But for me, I just didn't think the colors worked well enough together organically to create a variety of really cool looks. I just felt really sort of jumbled when I looked at this, and that will stop me from reaching for this palette in the future for sure. Honestly, the only reason I will reach for this palette in the future is if I wanted this purple or this pink to inject in with other colors. I might reach for this, but otherwise I didn't love it. I just didn't. I wanted this to be over after I used it the second time. So that is a shame because I love Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes in general, but this is one of my least favorite ones I've tried. Yeah. And I am sure that there are some really nice color combinations that I didn't tap into with this palette, but I tried, and I just wasn't inspired by it. I found it confusing, and it wasn't an enjoyable experience using this palette because it was almost analysis paralysis. Like, I really want to get the best out of this aqua, but with the other shades that I have in here, I just can't do it. And I know that a lot of people that watch these reviews of mine get a bit critical, like, yeah, but Kat, you should just reach for another palette and make it work. And I can totally do that, but I do think that with a palette of this many eyeshadows, which does have a mix with colors and neutrals and, you know, and shimmers and mattes, if I can't make it work with this, it's a fault of the palette. It's not the fault of my collection. Oh well, not every palette's a winner. So I'm going to move on to another one, and hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.